Hey, Scott from aristocob.com here.
And Seth from SethMarkwood.com.
Together, along with you, the three of us, we are Markwood Men's Breakfast Club. Welcome back once again, and good morning, boy. Oh, wait a second. It's Tobacco Advent 2020, day 17.
And now, good morning, boy.
Now, good morning, boy.
Oh, good morning, Homer. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. You know, we started a conversation at the end of the day yesterday that we're going to continue on to today, but first, I need to be smoking something.
So today we are going to be smoking a second tobacco sent in by Andre, not to be confused with Andre the younger, but Andre the older, the elder. And this is going to be...
Are you going to bring me some figgy pudding on this
Cordial Friends.
No, we already had Cordial Friends.
This is going to be Figgy pudding.
Figgy pudding, that's what I thought.
Figgy pudding from the Country Squire.
All right. So bring me some figgy pudding, would you?
So you were talking yesterday, when I rudely interrupted and cut off the conversation, you were talking about your choice of glasses and how you know what you want and you don't want to divert from that.
I mean, I don't need to.
Generally.
I don't feel the need.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. So I buy my glasses through Zenni Optical, and this is the fourth or fifth pair of the exact same glasses. Never have gone back. And the reason is, I think you know what you were hitting on. We've talked before about some of the behavioral psychology stuff we've both have been studying quite a bit this year. One of my favorite presenters talks about that is Rory Sutherland. I recommend you check out some of his videos. They're fascinating. And in one of them, he talks about why we hesitate about going to a Michelin star restaurant and not going to McDonald's. And he said, you know, going to a Michelin star restaurant, there's a 90% chance it's going to be a phenomenal experience, and a 10% chance it's going to be terrible. And as humans, we are risk averse, and so we don't like taking risk, even if the rewards could be phenomenal, because the failure is scary to us. And so we would rather than shoot for something really great, many of us default to average because we know that the average isn't going to be absolute failure. And so, you know, McDonald's is a successful restaurant because what they do consistently is make the same food every time. You will never be amazed and wowed by going to McDonald's. But
unless the McRib's back.
That is you speaking truth. But you will never be shocked and disgusted by it unless something fundamental has gone wrong.
Did you happen to see Rhett McLaughlin, also known as Rhett from Rhett and Link, taking his son to have his very first McRib?
No.
And he's talking, and he's exactly right about this. He said, now son, we're going to order these with extra sauce because they don't put as much sauce on them as they used to. And it's like, you know what? He's right. And he ordered it with extra sauce and opened up the bun and showed, now this is more than they normally put on it, and it's still not as much as they used to put. It's like they used to take that whole patty and just dip it in sauce, and they don't do that anymore.
There should not be a dry spot on that thing.
No. Yes, his son is now a fan.
Rightly so. And so I thought it's interesting because this has come up a couple of times in conversation recently since I started paying attention to that. Just last night, my in-laws put together a wine tasting. My wife and I are uncultured wine people, and they are connoisseurs, and so they put together all different types and walked us through all this stuff. But I was having a fascinating conversation with my sister-in-law about why certain wines have been popular throughout different time periods, right? And so she said, if you're talking to somebody, if you're talking to a woman in their 60s, they probably order and drink X wine. I don't remember what the wines are. They probably drink this time. If you're talking to somebody in their 40s, they probably drink this wine. And we're talking about why how
and not a particular vintage, but a
style of grape. So
like a Zinfandel or Or Bordeaux.
versus a Merlot or Cabernet.
Okay.
I think it was Merlot and Cabernet. That if they're of a certain age, they probably drink Cabernet. If they're of a younger age, they probably drink Merlot. And it has to do with wines that were available at the time. It has to do with the not just the wines available, but the grapes and how those grapes, how the wine industry shifted to growing different grapes because they were more fruitful. They grew
Hardier
easier.
grapes or juicier grapes.
You could grow more of them in the same footprint, and so the availability of a certain style of wine became easier to get, and it became cheaper, of course. And so she also talked about how different regions of places may find certain habits in drinking their wine. And what I thought was interesting as I'm thinking about it is thinking about how most people, I would assume, that would drink a glass of wine probably are slightly more educated than me, but not as educated as some of them. And so many of those people probably just ask the bartender, bring me a glass of red wine, right? And then they like it. And then they find out it was a Cabernet because the bartender's bringing them what's cheap and what's available.
House wine or something.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And they find out it's a Cab, and then that's the wine I drink now, I guess.
Right.
And we're talking about how the social aspects of how she's like, yeah, if they fall within this age demo, they probably drink this because that's what their bartender would have served them, and that's what they just know. Now, 20 years later, 30 years later, why drink Cabernet? Why? Because it's what I've always had. What I've always had. I think it's kind of the same thing. That a lot of it comes down to human psychology. You don't want to try new glasses. No, I know that I like the ones that I like.
So he was pointing to these, what we would have called horn rim glasses, but basically these heavy black plastic glasses that are all the rage. They look like something Buddy Holly would wear. And I did put one frame on, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and it looked like I was wearing my shop glasses, my safety glasses. It's like, this doesn't appeal to me at all.
Yeah.
And but you know what? I looked at him with his green glasses, and that frame was very similar to what he was pushing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the other thing, we were talking about something else.
Cheese. Why would I mention cheese? Because they had a charcuterie board, and they had some stinky cheeses that boy got.
A lot of stinky cheeses. Rory Sutherland talks about if you go to a bar, if the bar doesn't have pictures of what glass the drink will be served in, men will be much less likely to purchase that drink because it's again a fear of failure thing, that a man would love to drink something other than just a beer. However, if what they order shows up in a girly drink, they'll be mortified. And so
something
that's right,
dainty.
And so and so my bartender or previous bartender brother-in-law said, absolutely, said men won't drink anything out of a martini glass that's not a martini. They won't order anything out of a martini glass, and they'll order a martini because of James Bond, right? Because there's something manly about a martini, but other drinks, mixed drinks served in a martini glass, they may drink it one time and realize what a mistake that was, and so next time they'll just order a beer because a beer is safe. And they have this experience that is in alignment with the stuff that Rory was talking about as being just basic human behavior. And so Rory's position is, if you want people to expand their horizons, show them that the risk isn't as great as they assume that it is.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was the same thing about soccer. He said, statistically, the best place to kick your penalty kick in soccer is right in the middle, because the goalie will 9 times out of 10 jump to one side or the other. And so that is the best.
Well, he'll jump from one side to the other, right?
Right, he will jump almost always. And so statistically, the best place to kick is right down the center. If you kick it to the left and the goalie jumps to the left and catches it, well, it was just bad luck. If you kick it to the right and the goalie kicks it, it was just bad luck. If you kick it down the center and the goalie kicks it, you're an idiot. Because why would you kick it down the center? Even though the math is in your favor, you're an idiot because why wouldn't you take that risk? And so, this whole thing is...
And you can't be known as that guy that always kicks down the center, because then you'll never make a goal.
Well, I was talking to my friend who is in the UK, and we were talking about this. I mentioned that as an example, and I sent him that video, and he said, actually, there is a soccer player that's known all over the soccer community from like the 80s, and he's basically known as the idiot who kicked it down the center. He was in a World Cup or some huge game, kicked it down the center, and it just happened to be a time that it was caught. And he was ridiculed for it. And so he's like, yeah, absolutely, that's true. And so we would rather make a worse decision and avoid ridicule than we would make the better decision and risk that. So, yeah.
Somehow, even without seeing them, I feel like he's going to criticize my new glasses.
Oh, for sure. All right. So, speaking of this, I think this fits in. This is Paul from Cleveland asks, have you ever had someone tell you something as factual information that you later learned was a myth or an urban legend?
Oh, gosh. I'm sure the answer is yes, but what would that be?
I mean, it's like 90% of Facebook, right? Like 90% of Facebook. I gave up. I have a couple of friends who fall for every scam, every single one. One of them, he knows that if I have posted a comment on anything, that it's a correction. And like the 5th or 6th time I did it, he's like, man, I gotta stop being so gullible. He keeps posting these things. I'm like, there's no way that's true. Quick Google search. Yeah, totally not at all true. And I'll post the link to Scopes or whatever. Snopes.
I can't think of an example. I guess because I'm cynical. I mentioned Dimitri the other day. Dimitri was on the virtual pipe club meetup that I was on a few weeks ago on Zoom, now found on YouTube. And he brought out a couple Aristocop pipes that he bought. And he mentioned that, by the way, the background, the little velvet background in the cases, they're either red or they're blue. And I'm making this part up. He said the blue one has no filter, the red one has a filter. I've never heard that. And I don't know that that's true or not true. I'm not going to pass it off as truth until I investigate it. But it's one of those things that I've never heard that there was an unfiltered version of the Aristocop pipe. Aristocop pipe being this space age looking thing.
How does it smoke?
I hear very similar to a corncob pipe. I actually hear they smoke pretty moist, and that makes perfect sense because they're contained within a metal pipe body.
Gonna condensate real fast.
Yeah. Anyway, I need to research that to determine if it's true or not. But that's the sort of thing that if you hear it and then you believe it's gospel and you share it and share it and share it only to find out that's not true. Yeah, I can't think of one.
I mean, I know there were things. I think it happened just more as a youth than now. I mean, now it takes nothing to disprove something. I remember a couple of conversations with my grandmother where she was just dead convinced of something like that. No, that can't possibly be
pronounced Italian.
Real, yeah. It can't possibly be correct. But it was a lot harder to disprove things like that. Yeah, I mean, old wives' tales and a lot of those things fall into that category too. The things that you find out later that no, you can swim after eating lunch. Yeah. It's just that your parents wanted to finish their dinner before they let you back in the pool.
Just imagine though the first person who said, "No, seriously, you have a headache? Chew this bark." this bark will make your headache go away.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I got him to chew the bark. Right? I mean, somebody did it the first time. How did they observe that had that effect? We're talking about aspirin now, by the
They're
way.
probably just eating all the things, you know.
Eating everything.
Like I've had one of those headaches where I'm like, yeah, give me whatever you got. I'll try any of it. Yeah.
Bite a bullet.
Yeah.
All right.
Or the ones that the first guy that tugged on the cow and drank what came out. And then realized he should try it with the
chocolate.
with the female cows.
Nestle's. Oh, you think about the first caveman who came in from the dregs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Didn't know what would go with the bacon or the eggs. Must have been a genius. Got it in his head. Plug the toaster in the wall. Buy a bag of bread and make toast.
Yeah, toast. I like the figgy pudding.
I do too.
What about you? Do you ever find yourself being stuck in a rut of comfort? Do you have you ever fallen for any myths, lies, deceptions? Found out later that they were true or weren't true? Let us know below.
Yeah, some low carb foods.
Oh,
Net carbs.
no kidding.
Net carbs are a lie.
Sometimes. Yeah.
Sometimes. All right, hey, thanks for joining us today. We will see you tomorrow. Make it a great day.
Thanks, guys. Bye.